Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Cara Kurtz, and I am the Senior Coordinator of Business Development at ASTA, and I will be the organizer for today's presentation. If you are here with us for our last two Monday updates, welcome back, and to anyone who is joining us today, thank you for taking the time to join. Please note this will be our last industry-wide update. Moving forward, all pre-recorded webinars and content will be exclusive to our members. I would like to point out, with the majority of the world now working remote, our external webinar services have been experiencing some technical difficulties driven by high volumes of traffic, which is why, in order to improve today's viewer experience, we have decided to pre-record our updates. We are very happy to welcome today's presenters, ASTA's President and CEO, Zane Kirby, our Executive Vice President of Advocacy, Evan Peck, and our General Counsel, Peter Limbasso, as well as our Senior Director of Communications, Erica Richter. Here you will see a brief overview of what we will be discussing during today's presentation, which Zane will speak a little bit more into. Now, without further ado, I will turn it over to our President and CEO, Zane Kirby.
Thank you, Cara, and good afternoon, everyone. Yes, again, as Cara mentioned, pre-recorded today's webinar earlier today to ensure it reaches the maximum number of members as quickly as possible. My personal apologies to anyone unable to access Friday's webinar. The volume of people attempting to join, well over 8,000, simply created a strain on our system like we've never experienced before. Today, we're going to review the important information from Friday, as well as answer questions received over the weekend. On Friday, we talked about the importance of the various federal and state relief programs offered in the CARES stimulus bill. The press has detailed what a frantic exercise putting the CARES Act together was. Congress had to quickly fashion a lifeline to a seemingly endless number of industries and individuals impacted by the economic freefall caused by the coronavirus and subsequent government actions to slow its spread. We're grateful that after round-the-clock ASTA lobbying, several provisions in the bill offer relief to a wide variety of industry business models. Unemployment benefits, previously closed to but now open to independent contractors and the self-employed, offer immediate and far-reaching relief to thousands of ICs and self-employed travel advisors. These programs are administered on the state level, but many will be eligible for wage relief plus $600 per week for up to 39 weeks. The new SBA loan program with payroll and rent forgiveness offer many mid-sized agencies needed relief with their most urgent and pressing expenses. And an exclusive window for airline ticket agents will offer relief to the largest retail agencies in the country. All provisions were advocated by ASTA prior to their passing. Now that the first relief bill has passed, we can turn some attention to other pressing issues. According to the Airline Reporting Corporation, ARC, in 2019, travel advisors sold more than 300 million airline tickets to consumers. It was a record year. Revenue flowed from advisors through ARC to the appropriate air carriers. For the last several weeks, because of air cancellations, that river has reversed course, and revenue is now flowing in the opposite direction. But many consumers are not satisfied with an airline offer of credit rather than a refund. Instead of accepting the credit, they are increasingly disputing the charge with their credit card company. This puts the advisor at risk of receiving credit card chargeback, which may well be followed by an airline debit memo. We are not unsympathetic to our airline partners. The entire airline industry is under tremendous strain, but these are extenuating circumstances. ASTA cannot sit idly by when the traveler suffers, and ASTA members are penalized by airlines with debit memos under these extraordinary circumstances caused by the coronavirus pandemic. We've already flagged this problem with the Department of Transportation and will take whatever action may be required on behalf of our members to resolve these and related issues as the need arises. We call on the airline community to do what is right. Protect the traveler by offering the refund option on all tickets during this unusual once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and allow travel agencies to manage the customers they booked without the threat of a credit card chargeback and/or subsequent debit memo. I know travel's long-term prospects are good, but up until a few days ago, I would have thought it impossible that a cruise ship carrying healthy passengers will be denied port in a foreign country out of unjustified fear. The new risks of travel have been laid bare as a result of this crisis. I, for one, believe that virus testing is part of our immediate future and will become as common as bag screening, perhaps for an elongated period of time. Why? Because the coronavirus pandemic has revealed that what people may carry in the form of illness may be as or more dangerous than what they could carry in their suitcases. I was heartened to hear over the weekend that a new coronavirus test only takes 15 minutes to reveal results. My sense is that testing will be part of the equation for restoring faith in the travel ecosystem. When the time is right, be assured that ASTA will be at the table advocating for common sense solutions to help consumers feel confident in traveling again. Finally, we will continue to communicate with you on these Monday calls. Last week's legislative win was wonderful, but it was only the start. The stimulus is large, but it is a short-term solution. The unemployment provision we fought for, expanded coverage to RSCs, will last roughly 39 weeks. No one believes that bounty will return in 9 months or less. There will be other bills passed, and ASTA needs to be positioned to continue influencing lawmakers. In that regard, moving forward, our staff will ensure that relevant information is provided specifically to ASTA members. You know how frustrating it is when a consumer books direct or on their own, they get into trouble, and then they call you from the road for help. Many of our efforts have benefited the entire industry regardless of membership status. Moving forward from today, we'll ensure that ASTA members receive information, access to release applications, and other resources first. You, our members, are ASTA. You deserve to be our priority. Also, during the month of April, we're offering a 50% off the full ASTA Verified Travel Advisor Certification Program, the VTA, which is regularly $399. To take advantage of these savings, use code VTA50 at checkout. And to jumpstart your professional development, we're also offering members 3 courses from the VTA program for free during April, which are media training, marketing you, and agency relationships in the law. ASTA members should visit asta.org/membership training to retrieve special codes for these savings. For anyone who has not yet joined our National Trade Association, please go to asta.org or call us at 1-800-ASK-ASTA. Joining the trade association that represents you will ensure that you receive timely information and are part of the solution for our industry. Friday, I had mentioned our friends at Get the Travel Network, who made a chairman's level commitment to ASTAPAC last Monday. ASTAPAC funds allow us to directly educate lawmakers on policies that support our members. You can donate at asta.org/donate. Thank you again, all of you, for joining today's call. The balance of the call, we'll hear from ASTA's Executive Vice President, Evan Peck, Senior Vice President and General Counsel, Peter Labasso, and Senior Director of Communications, Erica Richter. Over to you, Evan.
Thanks, Zane, and thanks to everyone for being on today's webinar. Very hectic times, very interesting times. But I just wanted to give you an overview of where things stand on the advocacy standpoint. So as you all know, the vast majority of our efforts over the past few weeks have been focused on getting maximum relief for our members in this latest coronavirus response package, which at $2 trillion is the biggest piece of legislation ever passed by the United States Congress. It's called the Coronavirus Relief and Economic Security, or CARES Act. It was passed by Congress last week and signed into law on Friday. Happy to report there are multiple options in the bill for our members to get financial relief, including what's called the Paycheck Protection Program loans, $349 billion worth, that will be administered by the SBA, Small Business Administration. That's open to any business with 500 employees or fewer, including independent contractors and the self-employed. Another program to highlight is called the Emergency Stabilization Fund. This is a $500 billion pot of funds for the Treasury, working in conjunction with the Federal Reserve to make loans and loan guarantees and other financial relief to, this is really designed for larger companies, those with 500 employees or more. And of that 500 billion, 29 billion is set aside for airlines, aircraft repair stations, and ticket agents, which is the statutory term for travel advisors. And of course, that getting named in the bill in that way is really a huge win for us, and will ensure, I believe, that our members are close to the front of the line when Treasury starts handing out these loans and loan guarantees. Also in that $500 billion is $17 billion set aside for businesses deemed critical for national security, and then $454 billion for basically everyone else who has been negatively impacted by the coronavirus crisis. Obviously, that's going to be a long list and a long line of people. So again, having ticket agents named in the bill for this program is really a great development and a huge win. I want to say thank you to everybody who participated in our grassroots campaign to make that happen. And then finally, the SBA already has an economic injury disaster loan program, which it will continue to have. That's another route that our members can take to get relief. Now it's an existing program, so you can apply today. You can get money in short order. Definitely something worth looking at. So for us this week, we've shifted from the lobbying part of it, trying to influence the provisions of the bill. The bill is now law. We are waiting and we'll be watching very closely on SBA and Treasury as they put out details about how they're going to implement these provisions. We will let our members know as soon as we have any actionable intelligence. And I also wanted to mention too that we are going to start posting fact sheets and FAQs discussing some of these programs on our members only page, which Erica is going to talk about a little later. So that's our short-term focus right now. Understanding and analyzing what's in the bill and looking for opportunities for our members to get relief from what's already been promised by Congress. And then I wanted to mention too, round 4, so there's already talk about the next bill. Not sure when, not sure how big, but folks are gearing up for the next round. And as Zane mentioned, we are certainly going to be heavily engaged in that as well. We're going to watch closely to see how these round 3 programs are implemented and make sure the money is flowing quickly to our members. But round 4 will soon become a major focus of ours. Not listed here, but something that Zane referenced and Peter's going to discuss a little bit as well is changes to the unemployment program, which is primarily managed by the individual states, but Congress expanded those programs pretty dramatically, including to independent contractors and the self-employed. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Again, we're going to write all these up as soon as we can and post them on our member-only page, which Erica is going to talk about. And yeah, that's kind of an overview of where we are. I want to say thank you again to everyone who helped us with our grassroots campaign, which was historic from our standpoint. And we're hopeful that the relief that's in this bill is going to help the situation in your businesses, and we will be vigilant in fighting for you during the next round as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Peter Labasso.
Hey, thank you, Eben. As we did briefly on Friday, I'm going to quickly run through a couple of the provisions of the CARES Act that seem most relevant to particular sectors of our industry. I'm going to start with the independent contractors. Next slide, please. As those of you who were on last Monday's webinar might remember, I briefly talked about the fact that 1099s generally are not eligible to claim unemployment benefits. So in order to put what the CARES Act does into some context, I wanted to take a minute again to review briefly why ICs generally are not able to claim unemployment benefits. There are a couple reasons. First, it's important to understand that the unemployment insurance program, which as Eben said is administered at the state level, is funded by both employer and employee contributions. W-2 employees contribute via payroll tax deduction. Independent contractors, in contrast, receive all of their compensation without any payroll deductions, so they're not paying into the system. And on the employer side, their contribution is based in part on the total amount of their payroll, which includes only their W-2s. So the businesses that engage ICs aren't paying into the system either. So this is why traditionally ICs are out of luck when it comes to claiming unemployment benefits. Next slide, please. But the CARES Act recognizes that there are a lot of self-employed people whose incomes have been decimated by the crisis. As such, it contains relief for them. Specifically, through the end of the year, ICs who meet the stated criteria can receive these benefits through their state unemployment program to essentially the same extent they would if they were ICs. Excuse me, if they were W-2s. Can you go on to the next slide, please? Thank you. The IC needs only to certify that he or she has been adversely impacted by COVID-19, and but for that would be able and available to work as usual. You see some examples of the circumstances that would qualify, but I suspect that this requirement will be very loosely interpreted. The amount of the benefit will be determined under the computation scheme of the state of the independent contractor's residence, but based on the IC's net income for 2019, plus an additional $600 per week for up to 4 months. And that's available even if the worker was previously earning less than that. Independent contractors seeking these benefits should contact their state unemployment benefits agency. And I should note that application procedures can and do vary from state to state. Moreover, because expansion of the program to the self-employed is new, there may be some delay while the states figure out how to handle these claims. ASTA plans to add links to the state unemployment agency websites to its COVID-19 member-only resources shortly, so be on the lookout for that. Next slide, please. One thing that I do want to stress for all of the self-employed advisors listening today is the importance of correctly stating your status as a non-employee when submitting your claim for unemployment benefits. As I just said, remember, historically, ICs do not have access to these benefits, and many state labor departments are no doubt scrambling to adjust their existing procedures to accommodate you. If some of the information or instructions that you receive don't seem to apply to you, I urge you to try to reach out for assistance to obtain a clarification before proceeding with your application. You may be wondering why I'm so focused on this. The reason is twofold. First, providing inaccurate information will almost certainly delay your claim, and this is especially likely given the anticipated volume of applications. The second is that mistakenly stating that you were a W-2 of the agency that engaged you will create a real headache for those agencies. In that situation, the state unemployment agency will assume that your status as a W-2 or 1099 is in dispute and may well open a reclassification audit against the agency. And as anyone who has defended a reclassification audit can attest, these are very time-consuming and can also be very costly. So please do your part to avoid any unintended grief by verifying that your application reflects that you are a self-employed individual who is seeking benefits under the CARES Act. Next slide, please. Now we'll shift gears for a moment and consider what's available for those among the largest players in the travel industry, companies with more than 500 employees. That's an important threshold since most employers with 500 or fewer employees will have access to the new SBA loan program that Eben mentioned a few minutes ago. So what does the CARES Act have for the largest agencies, those not eligible for the new SBA program? In short, $454 billion in loans and loan guarantees to support businesses that have not received adequate relief from the other available programs. Note that this is in addition to the amount earmarked for airlines and ticket agents, meaning travel advisors, that Eben mentioned just a minute ago. These loans are made at prevailing pre-COVID-19 rates with terms of up to 5 years. Application procedures are expected to be published very soon by the Treasury. And of course, once they're available, we will share this information with our members. Next slide, please. I'm again providing an update on the SBA's Economic Injury Loan Program that many of our members, including independent contractors, will qualify for, as we've been getting many questions about these following our webinars last week. Next slide, please. To recap, for those of you who weren't on Monday's webinar, businesses with 500 or fewer employees who have suffered a, quote, substantial economic injury will qualify. I should note again that businesses need not have any employees at all to qualify. So ICs and other self-employed types will qualify. You just can't have more than 500 employees. Loans of up to $2 million are available, and funds may be used for payroll expenses, rent or mortgage payments, utilities, and whatever other ordinary obligations that you as the business owner will incur and need to pay in order to continue operating until such time as the economy improves. The interest rate for a for-profit business is 3.75%, with repayment terms of up to 30 years. The first payment can be deferred for up to 1 year as well. Next slide, please. I had an opportunity to participate on a webinar conducted by the SBA last week, and I learned some additional information that I thought was appropriate to pass on. First, separate and apart from the coronavirus legislation, Congress increased the lending authority for this program, the Economic Injury Program, just a few weeks ago. So there's no shortage of funds. Second, every state and territory is now a declared disaster area for SBA purposes. So there are no longer any limitations based on where your business may be located. Now, with respect to the application process itself, the SBA representative wanted to share that due to an extremely high volume of calls last week, the SBA website was taken down for upgrades. Those have been completed. So if you tried unsuccessfully to apply online last week and had a technical problem, please try again. Things are supposed to be working much better by now. I was also advised that while you can submit a paper application, online applications are being processed much more quickly. So that is clearly your best bet. Again, if you wish to apply, go to sba.gov and click on the coronavirus guidance link on the home page. Now, I'm going to spend the remainder of my time with you today discussing a few subjects see inquiries about over the last week or two that I think will be of interest to many, not most of you on the call today. Next slide, please. Question number one pertains to the expansion of unemployment benefits for the self-employed. This is the program that we just talked about. The questioner asks, I am a self-employed person operating as a single member LLC. The contract with my host agency is entered into by the LLC and not me individually. Am I eligible to receive unemployment benefits under the CARES Act? The answer to the question is yes. While the drafting of this portion of the CARES Act is not a level of clarity, there shouldn't be any issue as far as the business structure of the, quote, individual who's claiming the benefits. There's nothing in the Act that would suggest a different treatment of the members of an LLC, meaning its owners, as compared with a sole proprietorship, because both are considered to be self-employed individuals. So that will not pose a problem for you. Next slide, please. Now, question number two is about the all too common scenario where a supplier cancels and the traveler isn't receiving a cash refund. The advisor states here that an overseas tour was canceled by the tour operator due to COVID-19, and rather than a full refund, the client is only offered a credit for a future tour. The advisor wants to know if ASTA can help. And although it's not stated in the question, I will presume that the client either didn't have a chargeback remedy or that it was unsuccessful. When ASTA gets a question like this, the threshold question that we ask is whether the supplier, the tour operator in this case, is violating its own terms and conditions by not providing a refund as opposed to merely a credit when the tour is canceled through no fault of the customer. As a general matter, suppliers may change their terms and conditions prospectively, meaning going forward, but not retroactively. In other words, the client is entitled to rely upon whatever terms and conditions were in effect at the time of the booking. If the supplier is adhering to its own policy and the client just isn't happy about that, that unfortunately is not the sort of situation where it would be appropriate for ASTA to become involved. On the other hand, if the supplier changed its policy to the detriment of the client, ASTA may be in a position to intervene through its dispute resolution process, provided that the supplier in question is an ASTA member. Unfortunately, ASTA is not in a position to assist a consumer unless the party complained of is a current member. ASTA can also intervene in a business-to-business dispute, such as one between an advisor and a supplier over a commission, if both parties to the transaction are current ASTA members. So it goes without saying that this alone is an excellent reason to become a member of your National Trade Association if you haven't already. Next slide, please. Now, question 3 asks about an advisor's legal liability if she recommends a supplier that later goes out of business, resulting in a financial loss to the client. The questioner also wants to know what can be done to protect herself in this kind of situation. This is a particularly timely question, as COVID-19 has impacted most, if not all, travel suppliers to a great degree. The short answer to the first part of the question is that as the client's agent, in the legal sense of the term, there is potential legal liability if your client loses money because a supplier that you recommended goes out of business. And yes, advisors can be and have been sued by clients for alleged negligence in recommending a supplier that ultimately defaults. Now, whether or not the client would actually win the case will depend on a number of different factors. But as for the final question, the good news is that there are steps that you can take to protect yourself. Errors and omissions insurance typically will cover the defense of claims of this nature, so that's one thing. Encouraging your clients to purchase travel insurance is another best practice, not because it protects you, because it doesn't, but rather because if the insurance covers the client's loss, they won't be nearly as inclined to sue you in order to be made whole. ASTA has a number of outstanding educational resources that answer questions like these in much greater detail than I am able to on the webinar today. And I suggest that you check them out in order to be in the best possible position to protect yourself in these very uncertain times. And with that, I will turn it over to Erica for a communications update.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, everybody, for being here with us today. As Zane mentioned, we are going to build out a new site for member-only resources. On the next slide, I'll show you what that is going to look like. So here, you will need to log in with your ASTA ID to access the resources. We're going to start moving some content over from our public site and adding more content to our member-only site, which you can see here. We're building it out this week and we're adding resources daily, so it's really important that you check back here often as our team works hard to update these resources for you. Again, you will need to log in with your ASTA ID in order to access these resources. If for whatever reason it's not uploading for you, make sure that you're clearing your cache in your web browser and trying again. And we also thank you for your patience in advance as we're working to create this exclusive content. We're going to have some detailed how-to webinars from our legal team and from our government affairs team and from communications. We're also going to talk specifically on the CARES Act and how to apply. We'll have one-pagers, exclusive contact forms as well for our government affairs and legal teams. So these contact forms will be Q&A submission forms that will go directly to our various departments, and it will help us streamline questions from our members and get them answered efficiently between our departments for you. And as I said, we'll also have some communication updates with special announcements on media opportunities and other benefits for members. So again, please check back daily. We're hopeful to have some of that content uploaded by tomorrow and by the end of the week. But again, this is something that we're asking our members to reference frequently as more resources become available here. Next slide. Again, just a reminder for everyone to follow us on social media. I talked to many of you on social media, and this is where we're all hanging out these days. But I also want you to know that this is where you can stay connected to us in real time. We post announcements, alerts, updates on webinars quite frequently. And when we push out our special membership promotions as well, this is where you can stay in touch with us on some of those benefits. We use this space to engage all of you. And even though we're practicing social distancing, you can be part of our social community. So please join us and stay connected. Speaking of social media, this is something really fun that I saw over the weekend, and I think it was important to reference here. We've been talking about virtual vacation a lot, but let's take that to another level and virtually explore the world. We want to make sure that we're promoting inspiring content for our clients and also for each other. Let's create some buzz and let's keep this campaign going. It's really simple. The directions are here. We want you to repost photos, not with you in them, but of photos of landscapes or even videos like I posted over the weekend of a place where you've been. And then repost the text here and share it with your community. We'll keep this campaign growing. That over time, we're flooding our social media channels with inspiring photos of places that we want to visit and places that we want to go back to. So I encourage you to join this with us, this campaign with us, and help share some content with each other and with your clients, some inspiring social media images of places where you've been. I think this is a lot of fun, and it brings the virtual vacation to life, and I encourage everybody to join us on this. Next slide. So we're promoting a new hashtag, ASTAStrong. Members and new members, this is our new hashtag. So we want you to support everyone working behind the scenes at headquarters as well. So if you're a member, we ask that you find a photo of you at an ASTA event. Maybe you're with some ASTA staff, maybe with some of your best supplier friends on the trade show floor, your industry colleagues. Repost that photo and share it with the hashtag ASTAStrong. And if you're a new member, post the image that our membership team is going to share with you with the hashtag ASTAStrong and show your community that you stand with ASTA. We need your support more than ever now, and this hashtag shows everyone in our community that you stand with us. So when you're reposting photos, make sure that you're using this hashtag, and we'll be looking for it. So if we find some great ones, we'll reshare them from our social media accounts. So this is the hashtag that we want everyone to use, and we're really looking forward to your support. We know that together we will get through this, and ASTA is the industry voice that will make us stronger. So thank you for being a part of this movement with us, And thank you for joining our ASTA Strong community. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Cara.
Jane, do you have anything that you'd like to close us out with?
I'll just say again, thank you. I want to echo something that Evan said, that the grassroots campaign that everyone took part in, more than 28,000 messages to legislators in the weeks leading up to this historic legislation. It happened because of you. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time today. We'll continue again hosting these webinars on Monday with a lot of the resources now being put behind the ASTA member firewall. Again, member first is definitely our mantra going forward. So thank you, everyone, and we'll talk to you again.
All right, guys, as everyone has said, thank you. This webinar can be found on asta.org. At difficult times like this for our business and in our industry that thrives on personal connections, we know that working remote is very difficult for everyone, but we greatly appreciate you taking this time out of your day to join us for this very important update. Thank you again to all of our proud partners who have been supporting the industry through this difficult time, and to all of our advisor community as well. This will conclude today's presentation, and we hope that everyone has a wonderful afternoon.